In 2007, Lehman Brothers quietly moved $50 billion off its books, and when the whole machine collapsed the following year and 8 million Americans lost their jobs, the man who authorized every move walked away with nearly $500 million in personal pay and never faced a single charge. They knew, and they buried it. So why has no one ever told you what he actually knew? Dick Fuld was not a villain, not publicly. For 31 years he ran Lehman Brothers, and on Wall Street they called him the gorilla, not as an insult, as a compliment. He was the survivor, the scrapper who built one of the most powerful investment banks on earth from a near collapse in 1998. The business press loved him. Employees said he was the kind of man who made you feel like you could move the market with a single phone call. He was the steady hand, the guy who always pulled it back from the edge. But here's what nobody reported at the time. As early as 2001, Lehman's internal risk managers were raising alarms about the firm's exposure to real estate. By 2006, those warnings had names attached to them, specific memos, specific meetings. Fuld knew. The board knew. And instead of pulling back in 2007, Fuld doubled down. Lehman piled another $52 billion into mortgage-backed securities, the exact kind of toxic debt that every internal model said was about to crater. His own CFO was later described by colleagues as someone brought in partly to project confidence to the outside world, not to actually manage risk from the inside. And then there was Repo 105. That was Lehman's name for it, a perfectly constructed accounting trick that let them temporarily shuttle $50 billion in liabilities off their books every quarter, right before the financial statements went public. It looked like leverage was under control. It wasn't. The people signing the audits had the same numbers Fuld had. Ernst & Young signed off on everyone. The SEC had examiners physically embedded inside Lehman's offices during 2007 and 2008. People with desks, with access, with eyes on the books. They flagged concerns internally. Nothing happened. The Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department had Lehman's balance sheet in their hands in the weeks before the collapse. They knew the leverage ratio. They knew the exposure. The people with the authority to stop it saw it coming, and the system they served gave them every reason to stand down. But that's not even the part they really didn't want out. September 15, 2008. Lehman files for bankruptcy. $613 billion in liabilities. The largest corporate bankruptcy in the history of the United States. 25,000 employees lost their jobs that morning. Many had their entire retirement savings in company stock. The stock hit zero. Decades of work gone in a single morning. The collapse didn't stay at Lehman, it spread. Money market funds froze. Credit markets locked up. The global economy contracted so fast that by early 2009, 4 million Americans had lost their jobs in a span of 5 months. 8 million total over the course of the crisis. Foreclosure filings hit 2.8 million in 2009 alone. Entire neighborhoods emptied out. Communities that took a decade to stop bleeding. And Dick Fuld, between 2000 and 2007, he took home approximately $480 million in compensation. Some estimates push it closer to $500 million. When he testified before Congress in October 2008, just weeks after the collapse, he said he felt horrible, said he had to live with it. And then he went home, to his mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, to his second home in Jupiter Island, Florida, to his ski house in Sun Valley, Idaho. No charges, no indictment, no trial. The Department of Justice investigated. They spent years on it. In 2012, nearly 4 full years after the collapse, they quietly closed the investigation. No criminal charges, not against Fuld, not against any Lehman executive, not against the auditors. Proving securities fraud requires proving intent. You have to show that someone didn't just make bad bets, they deliberately deceived investors while knowing the entire construction was false. That line becomes razor-thin when the deception was dressed in accounting language that technically complied with the rules. Repo 105 wasn't processed as fraud. It was processed through a London law firm to make it look legitimate under UK law. Nobody ever had to say the word fraud in a US courtroom. The system didn't fail to prosecute him. The system was designed so that what he did wasn't prosecutable. Dick Fuld resurfaced in 2016. He launched a new investment firm, Matrix Private Capital Group. He was back, managing money, making deals. The specific accounting trick that moved $50 billion into the shadows is now banned under U.S. standards. But the fundamental architecture, the leverage, the opacity, the auditors with no real liability, the regulators with no real teeth, the executives with compensation locked in before the damage surfaces, that architecture is still standing. The next Lehman won't look like Lehman. It never does. But somewhere right now, a CFO is signing a document that a regulator has already seen and decided not to push on. Who's going to tell you when that one breaks?